What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders like the founders of P90X, Atari, many more, how they overcome big challenges in life and business. This is part of the Prosper Show e-commerce mastery series, where top sellers and experts teach you what really works to boost your e-commerce business. They have an amazing conference with some of the top Amazon sellers and industry leaders, including XSellco, who will be there. Now today, I'm very excited. We have Ray Nolan. He's one of Ireland's most successful internet entrepreneurs. Ray founded Raven Computing, later known as Coretime, in 1989. Seriously, a pioneer of software and SaaS. Coretime was sold to Sage in 2004. In 1999, he founded the hugely successful online room reservation group Hostelworld.com. There's a really amazing story about how they acquired the domain Hostel.com. It was leading worldwide brand with distribution contracts in 170 countries, more than 12 million visitors a month. They sold it in November of 2009, returning more than $500 million on a $150,000 total investment. He's former chairman of Skyscanner. If that wasn't enough, he is founded and is acting CEO of XSellco Software. They provide market-leading e-commerce SaaS tools. Ray, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Jeremy, how are you?
All the way from Dublin.
Yeah.
So, Ray, tell me XSellco. What is going on now at XSellco?
So XSellco make a range of tools for marketplace sellers. So if you sell on your own website, we have a great tool which allows you to do your help desk. So all your incoming email inquiries get responded to. But instead of it being a sort of a ticket management system, we also hook into your software and show your order beside the incoming inquiry. So for example, the order for shoes that you say didn't arrive, the agent doesn't just get the email, they'll see also the order, and they'll see your delivery history, and they'll see the picture of the product and even a picture of the person's home. But I think that where we really sort of our hot point is when you get into multi-channel, because with multi-channel you've got inquiries and orders coming in from, let's say, multiple Amazon markets, some eBay markets, maybe Alibaba, maybe Walmart, maybe Fnac, many international areas. And typically people will have to log into those tools to answer their problems. So I've got to log into the Amazon Seller Central. I got to answer my problems there. I got to answer the queries, the pre-sale queries. And if I don't answer those queries, my ratings drop. I make less sales.
100%.
And so what we do is we collect all of those incoming pre and post-sale queries, put them in one dashboard, allow you to distribute them around your team, allow your team to pick up those and reply. And we basically use the APIs. We connect to those platforms and deliver your messages straight to your customer via those channels, ensuring, I guess, that you get your answers back quickly and that your ratings stay high.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
What trends are you seeing in e-commerce as far as what, it's obviously multi-channel. What platform should people be getting on if they aren't already, or maybe you're seeing the results aren't as good as you thought on certain platforms?
Well, I think everybody knows Amazon are killing it. So, if you're not Amazon, you should be. But I think that, I'm seeing so many new entrants in the, starting as quasi-platforms. You see even Shopify do a deal with Amazon whereby if you have your own Shopify store, you can now sell on Amazon out of the States. You're seeing Fnac in France. You're seeing big platforms in Poland. You're seeing other platforms in Europe. There are a lot of people trying that platform play. And then you've got traditional retailers like Walmart who are taking their existing supplier base and saying, hey, come sell on our platform. It's logical for them to do so. Amazon have blazed the trail, and FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, is a sort of the way they do it. I guess if I'm selling via Walmart and I think of an FBW fulfilled by Walmart, has got to be in their future because I'm shipping my product to their warehouses, and if they're shipping them out of there, then all good for me. So,
right.
I think the problem for online sellers is the number of platforms and having to choose ones that suit them,
Right.
ones that bring them the kind of customer they want, and that's a challenge. I mean, it's a kind of case of you could spend all your time listing everywhere, and if it's very easy to list the product, then go for it.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure that you can maintain a high level of support in there, and that you're getting profit on every item you sell.
I ask you that specifically, Ray, because you have been, doing my research. You are early to the game in a lot of respects, in a lot of SaaS and software. Sometimes too early in some cases. So I'm wondering what you see as an up-and-coming platform that maybe people aren't on now, but you may see get bigger in the future. Obviously there's the Walmart and the Amazon. Are there any other smaller ones that you see taking over?
I think it's more European at this stage in terms of the Fnac and so on in France, and localized stuff. So I guess if you're US centric, you've got Etsy making plays over there. You've got but it depends on the kind of product that you sell. If you sell a generic USB product, then maybe Etsy isn't there for you.
Right.
But I think you've got to be aware of the time it takes you to get set up with these guys and what your likely sales are going to be. And it doesn't cost much to try a lot of them, but I think you got to do your research, and you got to make sure that how technically competent is this channel. There are still channels whose technology itself isn't necessarily great. So are you going to have to log in, or are you going to have to reply by email to a query? Can you see the customer's details? Can you mail that customer? I mean, owning the customer is a great thing. I like to own the customer. Right. So there's a chance to get directly to the customer, that would be nice. Yeah. So some channels will let you do that. Some won't. Most won't.
Yeah. So Ray, take me back to the idea of XSellco.
Oh, okay.
When you first started, what was the original idea before you actually launched it?
Yeah, that's a hard question, because I have to tell you some bad things.
Go ahead.
No. So what happened was I got invited. So I've had a number of e-commerce things, right back to the second SaaS product ever written, I think, was Coretime.com, which was a time and billing product written straight off, in terms of scale, right after Salesforce. I know that because we ripped the hell out of Salesforce's website when we built our product. So when I came out of Hostelworld and started doing some non-exec stuff, I started looking at some e-commerce companies, and I've always been in customer support. Yeah. And in Hostelworld is, if you don't know, youth hostels are significantly cheaper than hotels. Yeah. You might get $20 a night. And so you've got to make sure the customer is happy with it. You don't have to spend an awful lot of time servicing them, okay? Because you can't afford to answer the phone, not for a $20 a night reservation. So I had built a system within Hostelworld which we called Karma. And the idea was that if we had good karma, customers, good. Yeah. It was Karma with a K-R-M, as in our CRM system. And I was very conscious that we would service people really well and they would come back. And as a result of which, we were sleeping 100,000 people every night. Wow. In countries around the world. So this was of significant scale. Yeah. So when I looked at e-commerce, I saw a very divergent marketplace, one where people who would typically have started their own website and spent a lot of money marketing their own websites were starting to use platforms and paying significant commission, 15, 20%, for a platform to sell the product, but they weren't necessarily on top of the cost of sale. So the guy I met, my buddy who had an e-commerce company who was doing about $1 million a month, he was selling a lot, but he didn't seem to be making a lot of top line.
The profit wasn't there.
At a company level, he wasn't making it. So I was going, well, let me look inside, and I could see that he wasn't making it because he wasn't on top of his cost of sale very well. So he would have the cost of the product, but he didn't necessarily join all the dots. He didn't join the right
fees that were going on.
Exactly, the right sales tax, the right fees, the right cost of delivery, and then he wasn't minding his reputation. So he would sell a lot of stuff. Stuff would come back. The handling of the support wasn't great. His ratings would drop. And so, if you think of a pure Amazon level, if your ratings drop, the only other way you can win the buy box is by being really, really cheap. Right. And surrender a lot of margin. There's a lot of factors in the buy box. Let's not oversimplify it, but let's call the two big ones: price and reputation. Right. Okay. And that pretty much speaks to everything that is sold either in store or online in the world.
Right.
Is it a price and is the reputation good? If my reputation's crap, I have to drop my price if I'm going to sell a lot of it.
Yeah.
So he was in trouble. I took a real deep dive into his data and started to realize that over 40% of the products, of the orders that he fulfilled, he was losing money on.
That's crazy.
On a by order level. And so we set about writing a suite of tools. We wrote what we call our enterprise product, which we no longer sell, because it was just so monstrous and it took so long to implement. It was like, a mega ERP system.
Yeah.
And I thought, gosh, life is not worth living if we've got to sell this.
Right.
So I can make the most impact if I can help someone fix the price to be a price that makes them money.
Yeah.
And still gets them, the buy box if price is important there, and importantly keeps their reputation high. So most things that we do are price and reputation related. So I make sure that your answers get out there, that you get response times well within the SLAs of the various platforms, that you know where you stand with them, that we monitor how your ratings are going. Yeah. We also make sure that your own customers get the off your own website. If you sell through Shopify, or if you sell through Magento, or you've got your own custom store that you wrote, we can find ways to integrate with that so that your agents, be it yourself on your mobile phone, on your cell phone, want to answer a query, that we've got the data in front of you. So, what
were you doing at the time? Because you're not a person who sits around on the beach. What were you doing while you were digging into his business?
I nearly always have two businesses. Since I've never ever had a job, that kind of makes it hard for people to understand. So I've never had a CV. I wrote software since I was 16. I wrote a computer game, made some money on it, and kept going writing software. So at that time, I would have been chairman of Skyscanner, which, as you say, got sold for $1.7 billion a few weeks ago.
A few weeks ago. Wow.
Yeah, and I was also founding Ultimate Rugby, which is the biggest rugby app in the world, and then I would have been also on the board of a company called Ding.com, which I'm still on the board of, which is something else, which is international telephone credit. So yeah.
So how do you manage your time between all those things? What's your day like at that time when you were doing all that and digging into what was the seeds of XSellco? What did your schedule look like?
My schedule is pretty okay. So because I've never had a job, I don't understand work. Okay, and I've never had what I would call a job. Right. Even now, even though I turn up at this particular office for my work time, so I surf. That's my hobby. So when you do what you love, it's not work.
So when do you usually wake up and when do you go to bed?
Oh, I have a funny sleep pattern. So I wake at about 2 a.m. about 3 or 4 days a week, and I get up and I work till about 6, and I go back to bed and I get up around 8. So I sleep for 2 more hours, and it's like I never got up. On the days I do this, it's like I never, except that 4 hours or 2, 3, 4 hour window between 2, 3 a.m. when I wake up and when I go back to bed at 7, 6, 7, whatever, the most productive hours of my day. But I don't have I'm usually in an office somewhere or having a meeting somewhere around 8 a.m. anyway. But so it's a bit messed up my schedule. But
no, I like hearing this. It's interesting. And when you wake up at 2 and work till 6, what time are you usually going to sleep?
I don't go to bed early. I could go to bed at like 11:30 p.m. and wake up 2.5 hours later, do a few hours, sleep for a couple more hours, get back up and be good as new. And it comes from a lot of jet lag and understanding particularly formerly in the travel industry, you're traveling a lot. I was doing 60 countries a year, easy.
Wow.
And some of them, it's Asia. We had an office in Shanghai. We had an office in Sydney, Australia. We had offices in Palo Alto. And I was traveling all the time, so I was always in some state of jet lag. But I did realize very quickly when I started to travel a lot that when you wake up, you get up. Because if you don't, you'll lie awake and you'll think yourself into a state of depression that is, insane. When in actual fact, there's nothing really wrong. It's just that you're awake and you're trying to force yourself to sleep. So you cannot force yourself to sleep. So when I wake up, I get up.
So you basically sleep maybe 4 to 5 hours a night, broken up into like 2.5 hour chunks ish.
Yep. Yeah. Let's not overdo it. You know what I mean? I do that 2, 3, 4 days a week. I don't set out to do it. I don't set an alarm. If I wake, I get up. And invariably at the weekend, because I'm Irish, I'll have a couple of beers on a Friday or a Saturday. So I'm not going to get up on those days. So let's be clear.
So Ray, with XSellco, it seemed like that was a similar trend with Hostel World, where you came out with a product in the beginning and you were charging like $10,000 or $15,000, and you realized where the market was going with the platform and charged less. And it seems similar with XSellco. You started off with more of a mega product. And so what, after the mega product, what was the first iteration that wasn't taking so long to implement? And
yeah, that was a light product. So let's talk about the mega product, which is still in the arsenal. We have customers of it, we just don't sell it anymore. The mega product did everything, okay? And the problem with that is you're competing with SAP, in terms of scale. You're also competing in a world where not everybody has the cleanest data in the world. So there's a lot of data entry to be done. And if somebody makes a mistake and they were taking data from, let's say, another system, they're taking it via Excel. And there's a problem with Excel spreadsheet. The data going into our product was never clean, and there's a lot of...
Like if someone puts the wrong product of the cost of goods, then that will throw off everything, their whole profit.
Or they put a field, one field to the left, because the computer doesn't know that you put it in the wrong box, So the big product was huge, the implementation costs were huge, but we could see very quickly that the winning facets of it were pricing and reputation. So the first thing we came out of it was we cut out this repricing tool, a repricing tool, which is for Amazon sellers pretty much exclusively, although we do now allow you replicate your Amazon prices into eBay, which is working really well. But the idea is, with repricing, you have, if you've got 10 products that you sell online, you can watch the competitors and you can change the price and you can say, well, I'm prepared to sell at this price. But we have customers with 3 million SKUs, and there's no way you're going to watch the comparative prices of 3 million SKUs. But equally, back to my friend back in the day, you got to make sure you're making money on these products. So, we have levels of that product, and at the top end, you've got a product which we call net margin repricing, where you can put in the cost price, and you can put in, where you go, not just at your floor price, but see all the facets of price. So that was the first thing we brought out. It's been hugely successful. And then we brought out the help desk, and that's been great because it kind of, go to my story, price and reputation. It's the same. It is business, right? Price and reputation. What's left?
Yeah, right. So you took the core pain points, the core what people need in their business, and basically separated those out into two distinct products.
One of the products, I think there's an asterisk beside reputation, which is how do I elicit a better reputation? So let's say I produce...
Be proactive about it.
Yeah, so what we do is we have a product called High Five. I mean, the visualization is someone gives you a high five if you do a good job. And what we do is we allow you selectively approach customers through platforms. So you can say, I want everybody who bought a certain suite of products during a certain timeline, and I want to approach those people and ask them to rate my service. And what that does is, by being selective, we might be able to exclude people who bought a certain product, which is maybe very complex. Maybe the manual wasn't great. Maybe it was just a bad product. Okay, which isn't my fault as a seller, because I'm selling other people's products mostly. So I shouldn't really get a kick in, if you like, for that. So what we do is we exclude certain products from your soliciting of reviews. And that means you tend to get more true reviews, and as such you tend to get higher reviews. So that's what our High Five product does, which is part of the reputation suite.
I want to talk about starting the company, because that's not an easy feat, and you also have an interesting perspective of bootstrapping versus raising money.
Well, I mean, I have a different one now.
You do? Well, tell me now and tell me then.
No. I mean, I'll tell you then. In a world, so as a software guy, I was writing software, selling quasi-enterprise systems for $10,000 and $15,000 a copy. Back in 1997, 98, and then the web hits us, and we decide we're going to do Hostel World, and I take a product from one of my previous companies, and we dress it up and we attach it to the web, and we start to make some sales, and life is good. The problem with us in Hostel World, yes, we raised $150,000 effectively, But we couldn't have raised any money then, because by the time we got up and running and we're doing real business like that, we could have raised money. It was 2000, and you're probably too young to remember 2000. But let me tell you, if you're in .com, it wasn't a good time.
It was a bust, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it was not only that it was .com and that was a bad thing. We were also at the low end of .com. We were at the place where nobody could imagine you could sell a hostel bed.
The hostel, yeah.
You know, because our product was so low, and people were so used to a very high service level with bookings. So we took hostels. We didn't take hostels from some level of technology to the internet. We bypassed everything, including Excel. They went from a book, literally a calendar book that they had on their desk that had their reservations, right to the internet. Yeah. There was no stepping point in the middle. So, but the reason why we were bootstrapped was possibly because there wasn't a chance we could have raised any money. You know.
So you had to basically get customers first.
Yeah, well, we need chicken and the egg. You know, there's no point in saying you can book a hostel in New York if you've only got one hostel on the site. So we needed to have 60 hostels in New York before we could show you that we were Hostel World, that we that were worthy of being called the oracle in terms of all the hostels in the world. So that was then, and so now, and I've been an investor obviously in a lot of startups. I was chairman of Storyful, which we sold to Rupert Murdoch to News International a couple of years ago, and I was the first investor in there. Nowadays, yeah, you can raise money, but I think that my mantra is for startups that I deal with is, if in a perfect world we'd all raise money every Friday. Okay. And the point being that your product is supposed to be getting better every week, and as such, you would raise money at a higher valuation every week. Now that's not really practical, okay? So, but equally, I see startups raising way too much and giving away way too much too early. So to raise periodically, maybe 6 monthly or less, but based on milestones of things that you've achieved. So you say, look, I need to get 6 months further, and in 6 months' time, my product's going to be significantly better, and I'm going to have real customers. That's a different mindset. When I'm investing in that company, it's a different world to the one that came in with a PowerPoint or a beer mat.
Right.
So, think that way, which is to raise as little as you possibly can. And it's horrible. I've seen some desperate stories. I've come across guys who owned like 2 and 3 points of the company when they were leaving, at the end, because they raised so often. And it was just the timing of the raise. The company was never a bad company. They just raised at the wrong time and too much. So, when it finished Hostel World, we owned, and we had sold, I sold 29% of Hostel World in 2003 to a private equity firm. But even on the exit day, we owned 75% of the business.
Wow.
On the day, so it's a question of managing your cap table and raising when you need to,
So when you start XSellco, how do you put the team together? Yeah, tell me.
Well, it's different because now, there are, I think the terms are, there are 2 commas in my net worth now. So
you're in a different position.
I don't have to raise money.
Yeah.
But that means I can pick a great team, and I can have, I'm privileged in that I can get the guys that I know from around and internationally, who are great software guys and great product guys and great marketing guys. And so it's different. But having said that, it's a business. It's not a charity, and it's not an exercise in whistling away millions of dollars. So we've been privileged to build a business which today, well, when I say today, this month will break even. It will have 3,500 customers. It will have tens of thousands of users, all using it every day. We're in a great position to grow. This is not a my first edict, because you mentioned I'm the CEO now, and I've been the sort of quasi-executive chairman coming in practically every day anyway. So it seemed logical that I would eventually become the CEO. But my first edict is, stop calling us a startup. We're a business, and we're not a startup. We function. We play like a business. We play to grow. If that means startup, yeah, fine. And we're young. Does that mean startup? Yeah, fine. But what we're really about doing is providing great service to our customers, and them knowing that we have been here. We're super well funded. We've got a range of tools we're going to bring out in the future, and we will do what I think the single identifier in terms of the businesses that I've been involved in that have been successful is that we've tried to do good by our customers, and great customers make great businesses. That's my one. So
Yeah.
if you can make them happy, they tend to reward you by loyalty and by spreading the good news.
So Ray, there's differences between, entrepreneur, CEO, skill set wise, and you've had to do both throughout your career. What skill sets have you had to improve on to be a better CEO and lead the company?
So I mean, I did anticipate many of your questions, but I'll give you the question I think you kind of alluding to,
Yeah.
which would be, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, and what would you do differently? So first of all, I'm not a great hirer of very high level talent. I am not the guy who has been successful in hiring a great CTO in the past, or a great CMO even in the past. But what I have done is I found VPs who I have brought over a period of time and made C-level people. So I'm probably, because of my lack of ever having had a job or any training or any college education, although I was registered for college for quite a while, my attendance wasn't great. I did get to spend 3 weeks in Stanford a couple of years ago, which was great. But I mean, fundamentally, I'm a seat of the pants guy.
Yeah.
I know what I believe is right. I think someone wrote a great article about emotional intelligence. I'd be probably big on that.
Yeah.
And then
I like this. I like your thoughts about this, because in one of your talks, you said in Hostile World, I don't know if it was around the sale of it or whatever it was, that there was no big org chart, 120 people, and people just did shit.
there was no org chart. When we first sold a piece of it to a private equity firm, they said, send us the org chart. We had to run around and ask people who they reported to. Like, who would you feel you reported to? They knew I was the boss and I was the founder, but it was just an amazing culture of doing things.
Yeah.
Even here in XSellco, we have meetings, everybody pitches in. So there's no Chinese wall between the developers and the support people or the marketing people. Like, at the end of the day, everybody's in marketing. If you write a piece of software and it has a bug, that's bad marketing. If you write software with a great feature, that's good marketing. If you give good customer support, that's good for the company.
Right.
So, and so everybody kind of intermeshes, and there's no culture of blame or, oh my God, somebody did something wrong. So, that's
because most people, that occurs in companies. I would think most, and there's chaos, right? In yours, there was people getting stuff done. So I'm wondering what you do to foster that culture of just doing things.
I think it's empowerment. I think that in the absence and in a crazy world of hiring, I don't know where you're based, but I know you've got a big audience around the States. But let me tell you, if I wanted to hire a CTO tomorrow, I can't find one. If I want to hire a lead developer tomorrow, thankfully I'm loaded up with those guys, but I'm going to find a lot of trouble getting them. Okay, so I have to empower people who are not great and nurture them, and that's at every level. So someone who comes into me and says, I write great content, I could say to you, there's a branding project coming up tomorrow, and I want you to go in and I want you to run that project. And I'll say to them, look, you probably will get a B in doing the project, but you will be a far better person for having a go at something that you didn't think you could have a look at.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of way I've always behaved, which is I will spot what I call the lights are on. So the lights are on, that means this person's eyes are just shining bright and they can do whatever
You could
they
spot
want.
talent.
I think I love that book, Blink. I think I can
Blink,
shake your
yeah.
and I can tell you whether you're ever going to work for me.
Yeah.
And so and equally, if you do, I promise you that I'm going to give you the opportunity to be the best you can be. And also that I won't let you down, which means that I also am going to work hard for you and for us and for the team. Yeah. And I think as long as you're not seen as some sort of absentee CEO who doesn't pitch in every now and again at sort of at town hall type meetings and then go bury themselves in a corner office and never be seen. The old guy from, was it Chrysler, MBWA, management by walking around. I visit every office in this building. Yeah. I will drop in and say hi to every single day, and I'll just chat. And I'm not there to check that everybody's working. I'm just going, how are you doing? What's going on? And
keep your finger on the pulse of things.
Yeah, but it's like, it could be what's going on with the tag rugby team. It doesn't have to be what's going on with the business. It's just like, my door is open. It's never closed unless I'm in a meeting, which is rarely enough because I kind of try to keep them short and sweet.
So empowerment, management by walking around. What else do you do to foster the culture of just people doing things? Because anyone in their company wants that type of culture of people not blaming and just executing.
Yeah.
So maybe it's sort of second nature to you, but I'm trying to figure out anything else.
We do, and I learned some of this from the great guys in Skyscanner, because there was a leader, Gareth Williams, CEO there. I tried to buy Skyscanner some time ago, and way back when they were worth when I thought they were worth 8 million, and they told me where to go, but later asked me to be the chairman, so there was some good that came out of it. But his approach to people who work from home, and we work in a very diverse environment with people from different countries coming in and out of Ireland and into any offices we have around the world. And I think that to be able to say to someone who is from Hungary, who's working in Dublin, go home, go to Hungary, work from home, visit your folks, use your vacation time on a vacation, not on visiting your folks. So go there. Yeah, I know you're probably not going to get in, 8 hours a day. But you know what? When you're going to come home, you're going to be buzzing. You're going to get a great feedback from your family back at home to say you're in a great place and doing a great job. And then you're going to have 2 weeks in Rome or in Greece or in wherever you want to be on a real vacation. And this sense of, the box that you tick that you said you have to go home. Those kind of things, letting people work from where they want to work.
There's a certain amount of freedom.
Yeah. So certainly no. I've never appreciated presenteeism. If you're the last one to leave the office, that doesn't mean you're the best. It just means you're the guy who felt that he had to be there the longest. So,
for XSellco, what are some of the high points and what are some of the low points?
Well, high points is when you look at the numbers and you look at something like, and I'm going to throw a number at you, but it's probably a guess. But last time I checked, 37%, because about 4 months ago, 37% of the people who were using our reputation management, our help desk product, without being asked for, had written to say how great it was.
Wow.
That is, they talk about net promoter score.
Yeah.
This was without us asking. This was people who, of their own volition, had written to say, just a little note to say, thanks guys, we really like what you're doing. So that is off the charts. As a software guy, don't forget, I'm a programmer, okay? So I write software. I'm not some sort of guy who's parachuted in as well. I have a passion for writing great product.
Right.
If someone says my product's good, I'm going to love it, okay?
Right.
Now, the downside is that one of our products, which we released an upgrade to, prior to Christmas, probably went out in November, was poor. The upgrade was poor. The QA was poor. It was a poor product. It's called Reply Manager. It was a company that we bought and that we migrated the product to a new platform. We hadn't done the testing. It was poorly done. I'm going to say it wasn't me because I wasn't the CEO then, but it was poorly done. So we have spent an age and every single bit of resource for the last couple of months has been making sure that not only anyone who used it and felt bad, but anyone who took time to tell us that there was a feature missing, we took everything on board. And those are days that, you're nearly in tears. You're going, my God, this baby that I have, someone, by dint of really not going there. It was a very eclectic product. And we thought we had all the features migrated, and we left some that we didn't know even existed in the product because we'd bought the company.
This was an acquisition.
Yeah, but now I had a meeting about it this morning, and it's insanely good. It is the perfect product for a small to mid-size, either e-commerce or not, message management business, which is, am I getting all my info at or support at or sales at emails answered? So this product takes all those incoming mails and or eBay and Amazon stuff at a lower level maybe than our core help desk product, and it distributes them. So it distributes the ones about the Apple products to your Apple guy. It distributes the stuff that's in Spanish to your Spanish speaker. It distributes that, and it makes sure that everything gets answered. So we're delighted with it now. I have to say, it's going to be, instead of it being sort of denigrated and sort of being seen as an also-ran in our product suite, it's going to be a significant part of our product now. So, you take the pain, you make it better, you resolve that this will never happen again. And, with me at the helm, I can promise you that we're going to be a bit more careful about stuff going out.
How often do you actively seek acquisitions like that? Because that's a whole different ballgame, right? You're running a company, the products,
Yeah.
and now,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the big companies, they are acquiring companies.
Yeah,
How does that factor in?
So let's call it, we're not a big company. We have ambitions to be a big company.
Yeah.
I will come across and have always, so in Hostelworld, in any company I've been in, we've always looked to acquire small companies that fit within our portfolio, who have great talent or a great product or a great audience for another product that we have. So, we look at a product and say, oh gosh, that's good. We could do a better job maybe, but the users of that product really could use our other products. So that's where the synergies lie.
Yeah.
But we're far more about buying or building than buying. I've always been a builder, so this is not some sort of roll-up SaaS machine. Right. This is we write software machine, and if we can find good products that we can tidy up, improve the interface, make it look a bit newer, add features that make it work on mobile instead of just on desktop, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's what we're at.
Yeah, because you've always, it seems, from the research, have made calculated, methodical bets, but some big bets. Like, talk about the story where you went and you acquired or tried to acquire Hostel.com. That was, I consider, a pretty interesting bet, right?
That's called betting the farm. You
Right.
have no money at all, and So we had no money at all. We could see. So I owned Hostelworld.com, and we had hostel every country in the world.com. So maybe 200 websites, all of them with hostels specific to certain destinations and obviously worldwide. And we thought the only threat the only people who could take us now is if someone very well backed was to buy hostels.com. So on Christmas Eve in 2002, I mailed a guy and I said, I will give you X for hostels.com. And if I don't complete on the transaction within 6 weeks, you can keep, I think it was $200,000.
You originally offered him less though, right?
Oh yeah, originally we said $1 million. Then he wouldn't tell me the price. He said
no to $1 million.
He said no to $1 million. And then I said, well, what do you want? And he says, I can't put a price on it. It's like a vintage car that I've restored. It just means so much to me. I said, oh Jesus, this is going to be hard. So eventually I picked a number out of the sky and I said $3.75 million. No justification, no multiplying earnings. There were no earnings, no multiplying traffic. There wasn't significant traffic. There weren't a significant number of hostels. He did have a hostel listing site. But I had to make that call and it worked, But I mean, I bought that.
I think you're understating it because you gave yourself a very short timeline to buy it.
Yeah. And we had no money, and it wasn't the time to borrow money to buy a .com because it was still very .com, in terms of time. So we gave ourselves 6 weeks, and I know in the States you work a little bit harder over Christmas, but let me tell you, the pubs are open here, and that means the bankers go and have a lot of beer. So we probably gave ourselves 6 weeks and didn't realize the bank should be closed for 2.5 of those weeks. So we really had 3. It was hard. We did it on the night. We did it on the day. We said we'd do it. We met. You
had to raise $3.75 million.
Yeah.
Minus 100,000.
Yeah, on a prayer. Yeah.
See, when I first heard that, the caveat to the story, Ray, is that you sent him a large chunk of money and said, if we don't fulfill on this, you can keep that.
Yeah. We sent him, I think it was every penny. It was certainly maybe around $100,000. It was everything we had in the bank.
So you had something to lose. It's not like, oh, we don't come up with it, no big deal. Like you would have lost $100,000.
So in business, you either have integrity or you have nothing. So my integrity says, this guy doesn't know me from Adam. I'm making a bid for his hostels.com.
Right.
I've got to show him that I've got skin in the game and that it means something for me to close on this deal.
Right.
And in this particular time, it was by sending him pretty much everything we had and saying, we're good for this. And so I regard my reputation personally, and as you probably would have felt the pain in my voice when I talk about us releasing a bad piece of software, thankfully it's fine now. This stuff matters to me. So I guard my reputation very carefully. And so I'm not going to do a dodgy deal. And that means I'm not going to shake someone's hand, promise them that something's going to be great and for it not to be great. So when I write software and when I talk about product with the guys who write the software, I think about the users and I try to say, this is going to be more tedious for them, or this is going to save their lives. I mean, don't forget, as a software guy, the reason I'm in software was to take pain out of people's lives. I'm 50, right? So when computers came out, everybody said they're going to save the world, right? And it's going to mean lots less work. And in actual fact, up to very recently, they just added to the pain. There were now the reply all button that means that everybody CCs everybody and replies everybody else, just takes so much time out of everybody's day. And only now we're really in a world where we're seeing downtime. We're seeing time taken out of our day. And so when I write our help desk product, I genuinely believe that I'm taking 70% of the time it takes to answer a support query off someone's pain list for the day. And so that's a great feeling, So instead of having to, in comes the email, it's from John. I got to look up John. I can't find the blooming order. And then I got to check, maybe he booked it on Amazon. Maybe he got it on eBay. Maybe he got it, except that he's screaming. Okay, now we've got the order. It's in front of you. When did he buy it? What did he buy? When was it delivered? Who signed for it? Let's see a picture of his house. Let's talk to the guy so we know he knows.
Let's drop a drone in and a hologram and talk to him personally.
Yeah.
What's one of the craziest stories from the Hostel World days? Because that grew from a bootstrapped to a very large company.
Yeah. I think, that when you're in travel at the scale we were in with the audience, which was very young, that we had some pretty tough times in terms of, terrorism attacks. We had
really,
wow. When you see, 9/11 crushed the travel industry, right? The online travel industry, when it was just nascent, it was really only beginning. You realize. So we were on the first planes into the States.
Wow.
After 9/11, I was on the first plane, and we had 5 of us go. I went to LA and San Fran. I had people go to Chicago and New York, and I had other guys go to Miami and Dallas. And where else?
What were they doing? What were they?
They were talking to hostels, and they were saying, we will do the best we can to get this stuff going, to get the kids traveling again. The beauty about being in a young travel industry is that people they're freer and they're more likely to go places and get back on the planes quicker, And then we all met in Cancun in Mexico on the same trip where there was a travel conference when nearly all the exhibitors had canceled.
Wow.
Except us. And so we had the world.
It's devastating.
Hostels going, who's going to fill our beds? Nobody's flying, the places are empty. So, and we had time and again, the problem is, you had London bombings, you had Madrid bombings, you had Bali bombings, you had the horrific earthquakes where, and you just have to fight and you have to do the best you can for your customers in those worlds, when things are wrong. I mean, the customers being the properties or being the kids who are traveling, who are now lost, or, we had horrific situations where people were looking for lost ones, but we just did our best,
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So the thing was to meet the challenges, and while there's thankfully less as things go wrong in this industry, it's the same thing. You meet the challenges that the business throws up, and you try to be the best you can, and that's that kind of integrity. Nearly always, the karma police, which I firmly believe in, they let you away if you try to solve it. People are going to have problems. It's software. Software doesn't always work. But as long as you endeavor to fix it within a timeline that's acceptable, people give you a break.
Yeah.
Particularly if you manage to add a feature in that they've not thought of, or that they think that they have thought of that nobody else listened to. And we do listen, because it's the customers that gave us half the ideas. It isn't Ray Nolan sitting up on a top of a mountain, comes down with 10 new things he's going to add to his product. It's what the customers say we should have.
Yeah. So what's as of late with XSellco? What feedback? What feedback have you implemented because of what they're saying, and maybe not implemented because it's not a priority yet? Because you can't, execute on everything.
So it is important. I think languages, the way we do languages is really taking shape now. So historically, you could sell, in terms of internationally, or even, multilingually, in terms of a high Spanish speaking population in certain parts of the States, you want to support people in the language they're most comfortable using. So what we do is we allow people trade in markets they wouldn't normally trade into. So if I've got an e-commerce store selling on Amazon UK, and I say, gosh, I wouldn't mind selling in France, but my French is terrible.
Or non-existent, right?
Yeah, or non-existent. Well, my French is actually not that bad. So let's go to Germany. Right? So no German at all.
Right.
Say drei Bier bitte, which means 3 beers. Tell you why that's a good one. But the point being, so what we do is we allow you trade in those markets, and then we take your incoming support queries, which come in German.
Yeah.
We translate them for you automatically. You can then answer in English, and then we'll translate it to German on the way back out.
Yeah.
Now let me be clear. I'm not personally translating it, and it is a machine translate, so it's not perfect.
Right.
But guess what? Most of the questions are, where is my Apple iPhone that didn't arrive?
Right.
Or is it available in blue?
Right.
They're the big questions that people ask. Okay. And so you can write beautifully translated template responses to the more frequently asked questions about your products.
Yeah.
That we can automatically fill in the reply templates that say, "Dear Ray," in French, here's the answer to your question.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So we identify the incoming language. So even if I've sold something on eBay in Germany, the person might write in English, in which case I don't want to translate it to anything else. So we identify the incoming language, and we translate to the user's language. So in terms of broadening international business and increasing prevalence of more channels and more international channels, Alibaba, there's real opportunity in Asia. The question is, are people going to make the leap? And they're going to wonder, how am I going to support a guy in Shanghai who buys my product? Well, we can help with that by translating the incoming and outgoing message. And it's not going to be perfect, because you're not going to pay, $4 a page to have something translated every time someone writes to you.
Right.
But the questions are pretty much always the same. And sometimes there'll be a difficult question that says, where's the switch on my iPad Pro? And maybe you'll make a fist of it, but it's better than no answer.
Right. Well, I like what you're saying. Basically, you listen to the customers and fulfill on their pain points. But you still are a visionary. What are some things that you felt were coming in, and either it wasn't kind of where the vision, you didn't feel it fit into the vision of the product, or you had to change what they're saying to create something what they really wanted? They were saying one thing and they really wanted something else.
It's like, Henry Ford. Everybody, they really
fast.
Fine. You can have anything you want as long as it's black. I think that customers are not always great at explaining what they want. They can tell you what the pain is, and because their manifestation of the pain is this way, they describe it. And if you were to transcribe what they've said and then implement it in software, it would work for them and for them only. The job of someone like me is to interpret the question and say, okay, how can I simplify this so that even if it goes 80% of the way for this guy, it doesn't clunk up the prospects or the process or the flow for everybody else. So I do like Jason Fried, or Fried, I don't know if it's Fried or Fried, the Basecamp guy. And his thinking on writing software is pretty cool, which is you've got to be a curator, like a curator of an art gallery. You could not put a Van Gogh beside a load of modernist paintings. It just would look silly. So you've got all the paintings in the world, but you leave some of them in the basement. But you only put the good ones out because now the gallery looks complete. And that's when you're looking at a software feature, you got to say, is this going to feel good in my product? And to be a curator means that sometimes you got to say, no, this picture's not going in my gallery.
Right.
Or maybe, a version of it might fit if I, do some.
Is there a process for voting in or out those type of features?
Is this a democracy? Is that what you're asking me?
No, I'm not getting at anything in particular. I'm just wondering the process, because people out there maybe don't have a process for taking in feedback, and so I'm wondering kind of what your process looks like.
so we get it because our support people and our onboarding people are part of the product design process. They're not out in another building somewhere or in India or anywhere else, bereft of communication with the rest of us. So where we have support people, they're very much part of the design process. So they're hearing from customers, this is pretty tedious. And we have a kind of a rule, which is if the same question comes up 5 times, it's not users, it's us.
Right.
We either make it easier or remove it, or at very worst, we write a really great helper video. We do a great helper video that says, this is how you do it. So if it's like something which we feel is rudimentary, but at the end of the day, it serves everybody's purpose. If you've got a video that's beside the button that will play to tell you what to do it, then it stops you having to make a support call, so we save money. Or we take out the process and we make it easier for you to do what we wanted you to do. Yeah. It's a win for everybody.
Yeah. Ray, people look at your track record and it's pretty remarkable with tons of successes. And I remember I listened to one of your talks and you say you just keep kissing frogs and eventually meet a prince. What are some of those frogs along the way where you were maybe too early to market?
Oh, my favorite one is a thing which I created back, which is called Passport Vault. And so there's a very unique problem, or was much more relevant back in the day, but backpackers would tend to go traveling and they would take a photocopy of their documentation. They'd have a photocopy of their passport, they have a photocopy of all their flight itineraries, they maybe have a photocopy of reservations they made in various things, whatever.
Yeah, people still do that probably. Yeah.
Maybe they do.
Yeah.
So my view was this is not good because inevitably that paper becomes used for something else. Maybe you're caught short in the jungle. Maybe your backpack goes on fire. But sure as eggs are eggs, when you need that piece of paper, it's not going to be available to you. Okay? So my view was, and this is back in the day, so faxes were prevalent. We created a thing where you could go online and buy a bit of storage on our servers. And in fact, what we sent you then was a barcode. A cover page with a barcode, and what you did was you went to a fax machine, you typed in our fax number, you put the barcode in, the header page in, and you put all your other pages in after it, and that sent it to our cloud storage.
You're like Amazon S3.
Well, wait till I tell you. This is what's so funny about this. So, how many people bought the product? We thought we'll do this, and then when you're stuck and you're in Bali and you've lost everything, you just log into this thing, you can print out all that documentation, you've got a copy of your passport, you've got everything you need is there to be printed, and we'll charge you like $20. How many people bought it? 1. My mother. Okay? We could not get people to understand it. Now, listen to what I just described. I've just described secure document storage in the cloud.
Right.
So, did we know we had invented what would be the new way of doing things, that I had invented this thing? No. Was it worth it? So that's my other thing. So keep kissing frogs, but also there are no bad ideas, just bad timing. Okay? That was a phenomenal idea. I put it in the right context, and it wasn't in the cloud. It was on our servers. We had special dedicated storage. But the process was exactly as Google Storage or Box or any of these others. It is secure storage of files on the web. So anyway, no bad ideas, just bad timing. And
that wasn't a bad idea. I'm sure some people have bad ideas, but yeah, that was not one.
Yeah, but of course, I will always hope that my ideas were good, but just didn't work. I did launch a site called worky.com at a time when, at the peak of the recession. So there were no jobs, and we just didn't hack it. Recruitment is an industry so ripe for disruption. And so many people try it and never really make it. And I've yet to see true disruption in recruitment. And you know what? I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. I think the problem with recruitment and disrupting it is we think that it's just data. That you think that someone's LinkedIn profile or their CV or whatever is stored somewhere and searchable, and I can now find all the PHP developers and so on. But you forget that there are people at the far end of that piece of paper, and they've got to be convinced to come and move.
Yeah.
Come leave their job, come to your place. And it's hard to disrupt emotion and what my wife says when I go home and tell her I want to move to this new startup. When I've got
that's a pretty easy, predictable thing also. Get out of the house. No, Ray, what are the advantages and disadvantages of being based in Ireland entrepreneur? Or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I'll give you the Irish bit first.
Yeah.
We talk. We're reasonably good talkers. We're as a nation pretty well educated and reasonably gregarious, and we're pretty outgoing. We'll happily sit and have a beer with anybody. So, I would always sort of pontificate that, if you got a choice of doing business with, let's say, a German guy or an Irish guy, two things it'll be very different. The German guy will deliver on time, the Irish guy will be late, but you'll probably enjoy being late with the Irish guy. So it's a different dynamic. So that's being Irish. Doing business in Ireland is pretty cool because, first of all, we're the only English-speaking country that's a member of the EU. So we're the bridge for American companies coming in. So, if you are a big e-tailer, you're probably best placed to do business in Europe out of Ireland because we're the only English-speaking member of the EU because England are leaving, or Britain are leaving, and we have the euro, which is not sterling. So it's one less pain point.
Because doesn't Shopify have a lot of their customer service or some customer service based in Ireland?
A lot of people, a lot of companies would have. And obviously Google is huge here, Apple is huge here, Microsoft is huge here, and not for tax, for the fact that we were made to do this. The web was made to bring people from Ireland to the rest of the world, the ones that weren't going to get on planes, So, it's a pretty...
Do you find any disadvantages being in Ireland as opposed to maybe, Silicon Valley or some other location?
Well, for sure, I've done some work in the Valley, and in terms of fundraising and so on, it's a pretty it's not as adventurous an investment market if you were a startup over here. But having said that, the upside is that when you make it, you probably own more of the equity in the company, so it's not a bad thing, it's not a very strong culture of tech. So we're not loaded up with developers. But thankfully, Ireland is a place where a lot of Europeans want to come. So we have in this building, in terms of diversity, we're 51-49 boys and girls. We have about 15% of the staff are Irish, and the rest of them have come from all over Europe.
Really? Wow.
All over
That's
Europe.
Amazing.
Yeah. So they come. It's a pretty cool place, and I think that if your culture is one that allows them to go home and lets them sort of be part of things, and it means that you have to do different things. Culturally, we have a lot of team kind of sports that we sponsor the company. We try to get them to make sure they're mixing and so on. Yeah. But it's pretty fun.
Right. So Ray, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate being able to research this because you have some fascinating. I encourage people to go out there and. Because we can only get a fraction of everything that you've done, but there's other talks out there. I have one last question I've been just dying to ask you the whole time. I'm going to ask it in a second, but tell people where they should check you out. They can go to XSellco.com, which is XSellco.com. We didn't get a chance to talk. I mean, I would have gone in depth with Hostel World, Coretime, Skyscanner. So there's so many Worky. I mean, you name it. We touch like a fraction of a fraction today. But are there any other places we should point people towards to check out besides XSellco.com?
I think watch XSellco. XSellco is a $1 billion company being made right now.
Yeah.
And so, I have never been as happy with where a product is and where our customers are and the sense that we're helping them as I am today. So this is where I'm going to be.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. And you could also check them out. I mean, they're going to be at the Prosper Show. They're I think I saw you guys at IRCE. You go to a bunch of the conferences. So if you see them at one of these conferences, go up, say hello, check them out. So my last question, Ray, is you have 9 toes.
Yeah. Toes. But I did start with 10. So if I get my pedicure now, I look for a discount. I used to play a lot of rugby, and if you know rugby, you can picture a scrum, which is where the bigger, slower guys get in the middle and cut into a huddle that hurts everybody. I'm the guy at the front getting pretty mashed up. But one of the features of rugby is a line out where you throw a guy who's invariably what's 20 stone, maybe 300 pounds. You throw him in the air and you keep him above your head. But when he comes down on your foot. And so my toe, one of my second toe in, was so mashed that it didn't look like a toe much anymore. So it had to go. This was over years of being stamped.
They did cut it off.
They just cut it off. So it doesn't affect me in any way, but it's kind of an interesting thing.
But you also have one of the world's biggest rugby apps.
Yeah. I own ultimaterugby.com and the Ultimate Rugby app. So if you like it, please, it's free. And it's my gift to the rugby world, which is, I really, really like it. And it's, professional sportsmen are like entrepreneurs in many, many ways. And it's a privilege to hang out with them sometimes, which is just to see the level of dedication and how they think about winning and how they think about and how they play for each other. Maybe, in some sports, not all, but certainly in rugby. In rugby, if you don't have everybody playing with you, someone's gone.
So you feel like you maybe took that into your team and your companies?
Yeah, well, I hope so. I'd like to think that we behave as a team, and while somebody has to be the leader of the team, they're just the leader. They're not, I'm not always right. I just say things, and I encourage people to say, you'll get more respect from me when you tell me I'm wrong than when you say yes to what I told you.
Right. Yeah. Everyone check out XSellco.com. Ray, I want to be the first one to thank you. Thank you so much from Dublin.
It's been great. Thank you so much. Good to talk.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like $100 grand.